Memoachi mo kwaba Europa Daily Update TV so. Osua yen komo awase ene yen saka breaking news be na efi Martin Selom Kwazo na meka Martin Selom Kwazo ya meka yam oye NDC social media communicator kesi pa wohwe ne followers on number 30 nipa 30,000 and ehwe urei na anope no post breaking news. The Ecowas court has this morning dismissed Mrs. Justice Torkono application for interim measures. Ebusua ni nyina ne hye memfa ho nkwa akiri kura no eba omampanyi akache se enkrofo bi di petition bi abegu ho a omonhwe no omonhwehwe maame Torkono asetena no mu a wode wo judicial ho na eba se mpanyfo tena se hwe mu no na je se recommendation ne report eba je se yenso yenyi maame Torkono wadi enti yi maame Torkono wadi na before se maame Torkono free abam mu no na wode kan akofale application bi wo Ecowas community court e wa Abuja but ebusua entia yensa ka no breaking news e wo Martin Selom uko Facebook a wo search Martin Selom kwaza and as wo hwe flyer no so a so a yenya free no say breaking news this morning Ecowas dismiss because they say the Edunia swear Dr. Aye his lordship born into office into no almost said there is no way things can work out a year for her into no ni nyina ne say ye maame Torkono ne case of the kopiem Abuja court no ya dismiss nkotie ensem bia edikan ACC a ne di Torkono nkomo na mesho
Chief Justice no nema na oye no Ghana for and anam so ye Ghana for and I say committee no tena ase examine all the processes in ase for no yes she's dissatisfied with me can the obeka bia but some na all can say oye dissatisfied no is it grounded in law and I say is it the absolute position that we must hold and stop a constitutional process? No reasonable judge will sit in the court and say, so I am stopping the vetting of your friend saying, and as I say, you inaugurated president. Now will be say, president, Yamfa and Papa Sona, ye stop it. Obeka election petition. The MPP through their petition wanted to stop your friend saying the inauguration of President Mahama because I must say issue no court. Until say court in the issue now we know Mahama should not be inaugurated. Okay, as my court no can. The country cannot go a day without a president. You create a constitutional crisis. Asamna Wakano has not yet been validated. So because of uklema we make, we cannot stop a constitutional process. An institution clothed with power, the electoral commission, I declare on a president, until you prove otherwise, let the person be his president.
And if you have any problem, go to court.
Go to court. And if the court is able to prove beyond every reasonable doubt that indeed the process premised on something wrong, then the court will render the process invalid. No. What I say? Across I will negotiate a contract on the premise of fraud. The element of fraud beneath it vitiates everything. What I say? And to sanity, they can go ahead and your friend is saying, Omo Mvetino. Your friend says CJ. Now, so Obi our issues with the process and the Torkono issues now. You can go to court, and if the court rule for you, then you take your ruling to go and nullify or vitiate the entire process. That remedy is there. So I don't see why a federal market it's just it's just unnecessary politicking or more here. And I'm worried because if you look at the state that MPP won in parliament at this time, you would expect that they will use their number to do something sensible, not this kind of near multi parliament or more, because they know very well, sir. Chief Justice the process was absolute, the process was followed through. There has been no contravention, nothing. That is why even Ghana Bar Association, as a law, your friend say agency bar could not even raise any issue of law, argument of law, infractions. But they were rather singing emotions. Then as a phenomenon, you see, we must begin to tell people, I will put you in position of honor, sir. You own everything to the people of this country. So when you are serving them, serve them with due diligence. So I know the day, baby ba Ghana for and a can be amount. Now I don't know no impugn public, both in everything. I know the day issue ba that's a particular constitutional process has been activated and you go through and you don't survive it. I know the day you don't blame anybody. And after all, she's not the only person I'll go through. And I'm shocked why MPP is still pursuing this particular matter. Do you know why? Because the whole show now, the whole show, no, sometimes you begin even to doubt the competence of the former Chief Justice. The whole process, you know.
Doubt.
Yes, you doubt the competence because, and this whole thing makes the whole thing quite a bit funny. For instance, if you go to the Constitution, it is clearly espoused in unambiguous terms, very clear. Your friend say the process na yade disasem Article 146 process, you know, must be held in camera. That is an absolute position of the law. There is nothing anybody can do about it unless the Constitution is amended. Then the Chief Justice goes to court and says, court, waive that particular thing and let me have mine on TV. Aren't you worried? Because for her to even conceive that notion, you know, quite problematic. You see, Ghana, for issues...
The law is the law.
The law is the law.
And she knows the law.
And this provision, act being springing on us.
And the law must be applied always.
Exactly. It has a constitutional foundation. So you don't even raise that argument to say, Mama Media TV. So because Judge now will be no, he doesn't have power to do that. That is why Justice Amadou Tanko in his ruling made it quite clear, say, you are asking us to do the impossible. Because we as a court, we don't have the power to vary a constitutional provision. Because it is absolute. Where there is some sort of a lack of clarity on a provision, that is where the judge is enjoined to put interpretation on the clause. But this one, your case must be held in camera. Do you need interpretation?
No.
You don't need any interpretation on it. So a whole Chief Justice to make argument to say, you know TVs, you know, don't you anti-war.
Article 146(8), you know.
Exactly.
Yes, all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera.
Okay.
And the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or anyone of his choice.
Good. So, Adia Okan and your act and your CI it's a constitutional provision. The foundation, you know, is in the Constitution. So, why would the Chief Justice ask you need the OTV? So, then when you that particular young granting that relief, you know, then she goes on TV and the content of the petition, you know, she takes it on TV and read to people everything. Don't you think they were breachy? So, now no make catch you say process na ye Chief Justice Edino. Say even say a copy say odi bema ade na oye no another grounds of incompetence, another person make me submit a petition for her removal because you breach the Constitution in the process of seeking this relief. You breach it. So at the end of the day, your competence even you bring it to question. So because as a Chief Justice, we are grounded in law. These are basic errors that you should not do. You understand? So for me, I think say politics na no say seriousness be wom na say ye operate with due diligence na your conscience. I'm not sure say anybody on the side of the MPP will be following this woman anymore because as me by the pardon was saying and what is say omotie krom. Don't forget Chief Justice a member of Judges Association in this country. But what's your monk baby? What be say why? Because the mother association is the Judges Association. What is our Makasada? So Ghana Bar Association, ebe mouthpiece no more woman. On one kasa the Kuba time or them judges and Ankasa are quiet, observing the process, and nobody has raised anyway. Now what in China also be that? It's up to you.
Anti Anka say anamoa omampeni etu no. Senka enfambremwa.
Yes.
Anka Judges Association of Ghana.
Yes.
Anka omaba mountain.
Obviously somebody would have. Because on winning panel, say omutia this or no sutia bi. Yes, and omonso na no de na me catch that man for say you can't emra. We a lawyer, you don't interpret laws. We a lawyer, you are just trained to have a refined understanding of the law. But it is not in your place to interpret a constitution. So sometimes you see people on TV and a cross way or church you opinion on what they to so. A judge is the only person that is your friend say injuncted with the power to put interpretation on the court. We are judge, we are lawyer, the can be our drink. That is why we election petitioner, Chachuchi Kata of all people to be solid and answer, make all the argument, we are not judging about Twagu. They are not because they say the law is at the bosom of the judge. The interpret as a lawyer, you don't
have the discretion.
No. Yours is to you see. have a refined understanding
of the law.
Yeah, okay, judge, it make sense to the judge or to me, I do position to but you don't interpret laws. What I say, and we don't interpret laws. But mom, you were trained to understand the law, and then they are not put interpretation, which then by or committee. There has been a catalogue of incompetence and what display for me, I think there are grounds for another removal. So this particular issue, there is no issue. Oh no. Baffleborn issue go and meet Parliament, go to the vetting. I don't know the Parliament Genutuma, Uncle the Chief Justice. But Torkono there, she's a goner and on him that she can fight and for baby because as long as she has not been able to prove exactly what occasion are wrong within the remit of the law, no dear. The other can be an emotional expression of whatever and or expressing. And for me, I find your market and co, that is what they do. For them, politics is about being destructive, becoming a saboteur, stopping the process, and then as for on one said this particular thing. The Akroma, your friend is a e-levy. Look at the kind of pressure some of us mount.
Asia Obesha na eja yeshia ba ko bi we chire honum baby na chire se no Avan, you are an activist and also obwa say uye ejuma as a social commentator antinia ekoso my Ghana no I believe say you've been following and we have 3 topics. Me pesi edi ho enkomo. Onim say minority calls for suspension of Baffleborn's vetting. Say ye be vetting na fe yaka se ono na oba be CJ. Yeah, dom kuma e won brase be dwefie say dabi. Womo engine to musa enti say womo take legal action against that. If EPA bans on champagne, sa machine to for disease so. And so EDSA illegal mining, ebedi eneso ho enkomo. Is it going to help? What about those who almost use champagne no? And so edi ejuma fufuro. Cause champagne no enye mining the pet and yedi other so many things. If we give to Oware Abuaje ne ho sensem so maybe say the former deputy NSA boss get enrolled as a national service person. And so young Koma Yebedi will be a one casa, oye, boss, oye, deputy NSA boss. Now, what signs should do with the Senkrate Muse, oye, national service in here, oye, I mean, and this Uncle Mowe, and I'm a person, yes, and I don't pay. Minimum of the baby kind.
Yeah, the decam I mentioned, what's here for. Now, let me start with the CJ one minority, a Siki legal way relief. And I say some injunction be against we know. I think this particular issue, much I do about nothing because you say I follow the processes I lead to the removal of Chief Justice former Torkono. It's not as if it just happened in a vacuum. This is idea taking a center stage, a national conversation. Emma Ubia can be the woman at some point in time had her own dissatisfaction. Emma Nisiki, various legal, if I'm saying, ways I'll bet media stopping the process, or call court no bon 72 guya, or Sanko be court no bon 72 guya. The committee sat down in accordance with the provisions of Article 146 as espoused in the law. Emma committee no babontin in the Juma babontin, my president said yes, Emma nakwakotina. So in all this process, a certain constitutional process was activated, and the same constitutional process was followed through. And we listened to a lot of argument from other side that came up. One very popular has to do with the friend saying Ghana Bar Association. We raise a whole lot of reservations around the process. But I'm not here as legal people. People who assume that you raise issues of law. And somehow is grounded somewhere. What reasonable grounds to justify say indeed the process now is here not a end and I said something go wrong, but they could not pinpoint a single legal infraction cause so far as that particular process not happen here. And at the end of the day, the omuye any nyankwa nkosi aga ena maame na nkasa so no court ma court said the mercy kind of born in same to buye enti ya ba drew a point that we can all appreciate say the process na go through no was legally lawful, constitutionally lawful until anybody and I say any court of competent jurisdiction decide otherwise. So if this is the premise that we have, then the president is also mandated to nominate somebody as a chief justice in her place. And that is exactly what the president has done. And you see, Obi Abetimiako court.
So the president hasn't heard.
No. It's a legal argument. Nobody has been able to pinpoint exact constitutional infraction that has occasioned that far. So far as the start of the process. Nina argument in a emotions. Oh, in the future, you see, in the room where people talk law, emotions don't have place. We are talking about premise your argument on a legal infraction and answer some contravention of the provisions that happen. Former Chief Justice Bekabi, she was just singing emotional hymns. She couldn't pinpoint exact constitutional infraction or occasion. So we are entitled to obstruction. Nemana president are lawful and it is within the remit of the constitution, then he's also entitled to appoint another person. Constitution, you will go through the same constitutional process, not parliament, are validating, because that is what the law says. So, obi our reservation about it. Yes, you can go to court and seek injunction to stop the process, but you cannot tell the speaker to stop the process because the speaker doesn't have the power to say or stop a constitutional process. A constitutional process, any idea about me stop no, an injunction from a court of competent jurisdiction. So the question is, after marking in the group, have they been given that injunction? Has a court of competent jurisdiction, I will say the process has been injuncted? Because I'm
afraid not.
No court has. So you cannot just go and tell the speaker, stop the process. So speaker stopping the process, another person can sue him.
Yes.
For one neglecting the duty because he's supposed to. Because answer na beti imagine so I can say. Maintain the process, it means you have legitimate grounds. And then the Supreme Court has also proven sufficiently to us, say, and stop a constitutional process in motion, you need to have reasonable grounds, justifiable and grounded in law. And Obakaya, Abra NDC and 6 other political parties, SU Electoral Commission, when your friend is saying, Abra na omuye registration or district centers, Okaya. Now, almost electoral commission be lower registration to just district centers. And these other people apply for way. That particular way, electoral commission went ahead and a year the other year. A court, the issue was already moved, so it became irrelevant. Then another important thing has to do with the passing of the e-levy. The president was saying, once it has been approved in parliament and president has assented, it's a constitutional process that is in motion. So court injunction, whatever, they are doing it. If you have an issue with it, you can go to court and nullify the whole process. So the speaker can go ahead and make sure that the man goes through vetting. So, and you can go to court. Court, that's all legitimate grounds. The court has power to nullify the entire vetting process. What I say, that is why a court, say some of these competent, lawful constitutional requirements are injuncted on parliament to exercise. No, administrative. Or minor. The court will not stop it because somebody says I should stop it. You need to have reasonable grounds. I will prove beyond every reasonable doubt to say. So, go ahead. Now say, Bafu Boni, you prove the injury that will happen to becomes irreparable, and there is nothing that we can do. It is only on that grounds, and a court in Majinaka said, then stop the process. Let's finish first. But besides, I say, you prove Bafu Boni. Now say, obey. Speak obey Chief Justice injury bang at a occasion because he's also serving a role which is administrative. I constitutionally mandated. He's supposed to do that. So you weigh the wishes and the demands of the Constitution as against the wishes and allegations being made by an individual. Court process. The allegation has not yet been validated by a court. So you cannot use that mere allegation or claims to injunct a constitutional process. That is why very often when President Akufo-Addo, LGBT bill no command say own sign or say own sign because our court. No, I sat here and I told you that the president was only playing games. No court and I said no injunction can stop the president from exercising his executive duties or exercising we. Now say we free say the exercise go beyond the remit of the law. Then you can use court to nullify it.
Right.
What I say.
Okay.
So that is the whole thing. I find marking and these people they know this, but for them it's just cheap politics because they